time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah, this is tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time, time.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be tuning in and listening to Tea Time with Miss Liz. That's right, it's time for a morning tea time where I am today. I have an incredible guest that will be joining me today, Linda Jämsén, and we will be talking about risk-taking, all the incredible things that this amazing woman has done. She's an author, musician, traveler, and a good old risk-taker, and we all need a little risk in life. So, before we start the tea time, a little disclaimer and then a little intro on the amazing guest that will be sitting and having tea with me today. And let's find out what her TEA is. So, disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Times live show. Miss Liz, myself, I am going live on StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by Miss Liz, myself, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogue and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some what may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about this disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in this show in any aspect, I myself, Ms. Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect that as well, and I will see you at a future show at a later date. Now, I'm going to jump my guest on in here, and then I'm going to introduce this incredible lady. Welcome, Linda.
Oh, hello, Ms. Liz, and thank you for having me on your show.
Well, it's an honor to have you here on the show with me today. Now, I'm just going to do a little intro on who Linda is, and then we're going to sit and get some information from Linda. I'm going to pick her tea and see what seeds she throws at us today. Linda Jämsén is an American expat writer, musician, living in Finland. She grew up in New York, holding a book in one hand while exploring the piano keyboard with the other. Mesmerized by her mother's playing of the romantic repertoire, she soon studied piano and later graduated with a BA in music from Band College. Linda is also an avid choral singer and has performed in Hungary, Finland, the UK, and Israel. During her years in Boston, Linda raised funds for a variety of philanthropic causes and completed the graduate management course at the Radcliffe Seminars, Harvard. However, longing to return to her musical roots, in 2001 she moved to Budapest, the land of her musical idol, Franz Liszt. Am I saying that right? Liszt?
Franz Liszt, yeah.
Franz Liszt.
Yeah.
My tongue sometimes it just rolls. That's my accent. I don't know. Must be the Norwegian accent that I have. So for more on Linda, you can check out her full bio on Miss Liz's Tea Time page on Facebook, on all my social medias. It is there. And it will also be in the description for anyone who is listening to the audio of this Tea Time today. So Linda, welcome to Tea Time.
Yes, thank you.
So could you share a little bit on who you are and how it all started, the journey, the traveling, the music, the writing, all that good stuff? Could you spill some tea with us today?
Sure, I'd love to. As you mentioned in my bio, I've been a musician from a very early age because I was very taken with my mother's piano playing as a child. And I was really lucky because then she one day sat me down on her lap and she taught me how to play piano. And I got private lessons, I think, almost every night from her for years. So I just grew up with this love of music and mostly the romantic repertoire. That's what she played. A lot of Liszt and Chopin, Mendelssohn, Schumann. So that's the music I gravitate to. Then I studied music at college, as you know, and after that I moved to Boston, and I moved between Boston and New York most of my adult life. So then what happened when this all, my odyssey began, I was 41 years old. Actually, it happened on my 41st birthday. I was expecting a marriage proposal from my long-term boyfriend, Hank. We had been together 7 years. And he had been acting kind of mysterious. It seemed like he was planning something. I thought maybe he was calling my parents and organizing an engagement announcement or something. But nothing panned out. I mean, nothing came of it. So on that particular day, I also graduated from this Harvard Radcliffe program. So we had this graduation birthday party. And, you know, there were a lot of gifts. What he had organized was getting some gifts from friends who were out of town. So he was accumulating cards and gifts, which was very nice. But at the end of the day, there was no proposal. Okay. So
us women are so hard to,
yeah.
Right? We're like, we want it now.
Yeah. So we had been together 7 years. And I think because I had graduated and I was 41, I started to think, okay, now is a good time. I've been so focused on my career. And what about my personal life? And I wanted to explore the idea, at least, of having a family with him. And he was totally not interested. And his idea, he was also not interested in marriage long term. He wanted to just have things continue the way they were. And it was difficult because the things were good. I mean, in the moment, day-to-day life with him was good. We lived together and we seemed happy together. But I just had this like nagging feeling that if I continued to stay with him, I knew I would be giving up some of my own personal goals and, you know, going along with his. And I don't think that's right. So I thought, you know, okay, I could do this maybe a few more months, maybe even a few more years, but ultimately I'm going to be disappointed and bitter. And I didn't want to be that way, you know. So I discussed this with my best friend, Jenny, and she said to me in a very direct way, well, if Hank, you know, isn't going to propose after 7 years, 10 or 15 might not be enough either. And, you know, that hurt, but I thought it was truthful. And I thought about it. And what she suggested was that I go to see her psychic. And as a birthday gift, she sent me to visit her psychic, Angelica. And Angelica is a major character in the book that I wrote, the memoir, Odyssey of Love. So this is how the journey started, really. I sort of, against my feelings, I thought it was a lot of hocus pocus, you know. I went to see Angelica. And I have to tell you the reason why I was open to it is that I learned many years ago that my mother had seen a tea leaf reader before meeting my father in New York City. So she had been engaged to someone else and she had a lot of issues or concerns about that guy, her fiance. And she went to see a tea leaf reader and the woman said to her, this is not the man for you. You're not going to marry this guy. But there is a man coming into your life with the initial J, and you're going to meet him and get married within 6 months. And lo and behold, my mother met and married Joseph.
Wow.
In 6 months. And they were married 48 years until he died.
Oh, my goodness.
Happily, yeah. So I thought about that, and I thought my mother had seen a tea leaf reader, and this was like part of their love story. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to poo-poo it because it worked for her, you know. So I went to see Angelica, and I was really hoping to hear that Hank would come around, you know, that he will wake up one day and just realize that he wants to be with me and, you know, we'll get married, maybe have a family. And but what she said was actually the exact opposite. The first thing she said was, you're going to move to Europe. And and Hank hated to travel. He was really afraid of flying. So I knew that he wasn't going to be in that picture, you know. Yeah. So I didn't say anything at first. I thought, okay, Europe, yeah. And then she said, oh, and this person you're with, you know, he's not the one. And the man you're going to be with is a tall man with glasses, and he's waiting for you overseas.
Oh.
She said, he won't come into your life for a while, but when he does, there will be a Russian icon involved in your meeting. And I thought that, in a way, it sounded crazy, but in another way, it was really fascinating. And my grandmother was my father's mother had been Russian. And so this whole idea of the Russian icon, Russia, like it was sounded very mysterious. And my interest was definitely piqued, you know.
Yeah.
And then she said that I would reconnect with music, and I would be moving overseas, and she saw like stringed instruments around me. She heard like clarinet. She saw me on a stage, and I thought, wow, like it just seems like kind of far-fetched, but it was like, if I dare say, music to my ears. It was really fantastic. It was wonderful to hear this. So I was really thrilled that life seemed to have so many possibilities at that point. But at the same time, I was really like heartbroken about Hank. And I just thought, So I had a decision to make. And I went back, I talked to Jenny, I talked to my parents, I was open with them. And everyone was very supportive of my idea to go on this Odyssey, which is what Angelica called it, an Odyssey. That's why I called my book Odyssey of Love.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why you named your book that.
Yeah, because Angelica said that about the Odyssey. And then there's this wonderful quote by Franz Liszt, you know, my idol. And he once said that my life was nothing but an odyssey of love. I was fitted only for loving. So
Wow.
I got the title of the book from that quote from Franz Liszt, and because of what Angelica had said. So that started me on my way. And when I thought about where to go, I picked Budapest for that reason, because of my love for Franz Liszt. There's the Liszt Academy, where I wound up volunteering and then singing later. And there was also this international house where I could train to be an ESL teacher, basically. So I picked Budapest, and it was an incredible experience. And I moved, and I just took a big leap of faith that it would somehow work out. And not because of what Angelica said so much, although that always stayed with me, but it was more that I really felt really ripe. That's the word. I was ripe for adventure. I was really ready for the next part of my life. And something was definitely missing. It was like the music was missing. This feeling of having a future with someone who wanted what I wanted was missing. You know, the idea of seeing a big picture. And I was 41, and that was kind of scary. So I just went for it, you know. And I had always wanted to travel, and that's the other thing. I had not traveled so much abroad. I had been on a few trips abroad, but never like anything in depth, you know. So that was something I had really wanted to do that I had put off, and that was something that Hank was not at all interested in.
So you actually got your leaves read, or you went and got your cards read?
No, I just a psychic. She didn't read cards, and she didn't read tea leaves. She just like an intuitive. So she just closed her eyes, and I describe it in the book, and she just started seeing images, you know, and hearing voices, and talking to my higher guides. That's what she said. I don't know who they were, but
well, they actually took you on a journey, because you've traveled. Like, you've went to Budapest, you went to the UK, Finland. Like, you've been all over So yes. Where's your favorite place?
Well, during my Odyssey, I traveled a lot around Hungary. Like, there's Vienna. You can take a 2-hour train ride to Vienna. I went to Greece to visit my cousin, Athens. I went to Slovakia, and then Brussels and Germany, Poland. I went to many places I don't write about. But in the book, I write about Ephesus, Turkey, and Israel, and Amsterdam mostly, and Tinos, a little island in Greece. My favorite country actually is not one of those. It's Italy.
Oh, and have you been to Italy? You've been to Italy.
I've been to Italy, and I keep going. That's where I want to spend more of my time. I think Italy has everything. But I loved a lot of these countries too, like Turkey. There was and Israel. It was just wonderful. But one reason I traveled was because I thought I was moving back to America, I thought that, I gave myself 2 years to meet this person and to teach, English. Then I thought I would go back to America, hopefully with this guy, and then go back to my career. And so I just thought, okay, I'm going to get in as much traveling as I possibly can, because when I go back to the States and I get a new job, I won't get much vacation time. So that's why I was just, every time I had a break, I was traveling as much as I could, So then the funny thing is, I picked Finland. I came to Finland at the end, and where I met this tall man with glasses, which is not a secret, of course, because I live in Finland. And I thought, the day before I met him, I was like rushing all over Helsinki, the same thing. I'm never coming back here. I went to like the Sibelius statue. I went to the Island. I was just running all over Helsinki because I thought, I'm never coming back here. So isn't that funny?
Yeah, it is.
Life turns out.
But the risk have really taken you on a beautiful journey as well, and that you're able to write and share about it as. Yeah. So your book is based on the love story, correct?
Yes. So it's the story begins in Boston and it ends in Helsinki, and it's a search for this man, but along the way meeting a lot of imposters and other tall men with glasses who usually had some sort of issue that did, the relationship didn't work out. And also a lot of singing, because while I was there, as I mentioned, I had volunteered at the Liszt Academy, and then I was invited to join the Budapest Academic Choral Society. So while I was singing with them, we actually performed at the Liszt Academy a few times. And then we went on tour in Israel for 3 weeks at Christmas time, which was really one of the highlights of my musical life, maybe the whole highlight of my musical life. So that was fantastic. So I got to do things there that I wasn't able to do or hadn't been doing in Boston. I had been so focused on my career and my relationship, and so it was a really big, huge adventure. And I'm really glad I took that risk, that I just went for it. I was so open. And I have to say, I think that's a big part of what you attract. It's how open you are,
Yeah.
How right you are, how willing, how just you're open. And actually, when my husband, who's very shy, actually, Finnish men are stereotypically very shy. And when I asked him years ago why he came over to me, he said he felt compelled to come over to me because I just exuded this like happiness and joy, and like just like that I was open. And I remember feeling that way. I was really happy. I knew my adventure was coming to an end, and I thought, like, I haven't met this guy, but I'm moving back to America. But, I've had this wonderful adventure, and I thought I was wrapping up my Odyssey. And so, but another one was beginning, a totally different one,
Yeah.
A married life.
So for the listeners and viewers out there that are tuning in or watching the replay, what has the greatest aspect of your life been being a risk taker? What has it taught you about yourself?
One thing that's happened for me, and I think maybe for others too, is that even though the risk can feel very frightening, and actually leaving a comfortable situation, like when I left Hank, that was actually a comfortable relationship, frustrating, but it was comfortable, and a comfortable job, with a good salary. In all these situations, I learned that there was actually something more appropriate for me, or that's something that made me happier. So in the moment, I might have been like frustrated or scared to take a chance, but I always learned that what came next was better than what I left before. Like it was a growth experience. Yeah. Maybe really painful to get to that point. And I mean, I suffered a lot, emotionally before I left Hank. It was about 6 months before I left, and a lot of disappointment. And I felt I had given a lot of years to the relationship. I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, when a relationship ends, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, I gave so much. Now what? 7 more. Well,
you kind of guard yourself, right, for the next one. You're just like, am I going to give another 7 years to somebody else? So you always have that fear, especially when you're in long relationships, anything over a year, then you start to question, oh, is the next one going to be another, So we start to self-doubt ourselves a little bit. But I really love that you were so open and traveling. And so for the listeners and viewers that are listening, sometimes things scare us, but we just got to take that risk and we got to just go for it and got to jump. And sometimes what we think is what's supposed to be for us isn't for us. So
that's a difficult lesson to learn. And I've felt this also with jobs before. My dream job would come up and I'd interview for it. And I would just think, oh my God, I really want this job. Like, it would be so perfect for me. And then I wouldn't get it. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, I thought it was a perfect fit. And same thing for a relationship. You could meet someone and you think, oh, like he's really great for me or whatever. And then that doesn't work out. But then always there's someone, I thought, for me anyway, more appropriate or that made me happier. It just seemed easier. And actually, I remember being frustrated with Hank for some years about little things. Well, like traveling, for example. I was really ripe to travel and I really wanted to explore. And he was holding me back. And that was the reality. But I just kind of went along with it, at the time. And then when I met my future husband, I expressed to him my desire to travel to St. Petersburg because it's so close to Helsinki. And I think it was celebrating its 300th year anniversary at that time. And he was so easygoing. He just said, well, okay, we give our passports, we'll take my passport and you go to this office downtown and just then we get a visa. And he was so matter of fact, and we'll take the train there and we'll stay at a hotel. So he was just so easygoing and it was just phew, and I hadn't realized I'd been holding on to this frustration for, I felt like I was just sort of always trying to pull Hank along,
and it holds you back, right? And it starts to drain you, and then you start self-doubting. Oh, well, maybe I'm not supposed to travel. Maybe it's just a dream. Let's stop talking about that. I'm the same way. I want to travel, and I'm with someone who doesn't want to travel. Like he's a homebody, and I'm just like, you know what? Well, then I travel by myself because I need to do it. And if that's something that you don't want to do, then I go and travel alone and you stay at home. That's your choice. You're happy. I'm happy.
Absolutely. You have to do it because you'll just be frustrated if you don't. And, and I think, and he'll be happier in the long run that you're happy when you come back and you can talk about these experiences and you'll just be feeling more fulfilled. Yeah. And actually, I never did that when I was with Hank, actually. I always stayed, it was the homebody or I was studying for this, going to graduate school at night and on the weekend and my job and visiting my parents who lived about 2 hours away. So life was full with these other things. So I wasn't so focused, but it was always sort of a nagging thing, because I thought, well, if I do settle down, if I do have a child someday, I want to travel now before that happens. So, but little did I had no idea I would be traveling so much, in a short time. So, but it was all fantastic. Well,
and you've seen some really beautiful places, so I'd love to see pictures. We have to have an after tea party. I do want to bring in that you were part of the Queen's Jubilee that just happened in June last week, I believe, right? So how was that experience for you?
Yeah. Oh, it was wonderful. I have been involved with the Anglican Church of Finland or the Church of England here. For about 15 years, because when I moved here and I didn't speak any Finnish at all, I couldn't really understand what was happening in the Lutheran church, the Finnish church. So a friend of mine here who's German, actually, she suggested I play piano at the church here. So I started to play piano and that's how I got involved. And then at different times I've sung in the choir, the church choir. So what happened was about a month ago, the choir director asked me to sing. It had been 2.5 years because of Corona since I had sung anywhere. It had been actually at the same cathedral, or it's called Tuomio Kirkko, the big cathedral in Helsinki. I hadn't sung there since Christmas 2019 with this choir. So he asked me and I thought, oh, okay. I thought, well, okay, things are getting better now with Corona. I'll take a chance. So I it was about 2 or 3 weeks of really intensive rehearsals and beautiful music and some of the Queen's favorite pieces. And one piece that was played actually at her coronation 70 years ago. So we stood up in the organ. There were about 20 of us or more, and we had a fantastic organist. And we had the British ambassador was there, and some other diplomats, and some war veterans, and all sorts of. I mean, it was a really interesting mix of people, and people from different denominations, church denominations, and so we had about 300 people.
Oh wow!
Great. Yeah, it was wonderful. And I was so happy to sing again. I can't tell you. It was so wonderful. And after that, we had a very lovely reception down in what we call the crypt. So we did that. And then 2 days later, our church had a big tea party. Shall I show you my teacup?
Oh my goodness. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Thank you. We had a tea party after the service in the yard of our church. So I had bought this really big cake, and it said 70 Jubilee on it, and everybody brought food and scones. I love scones, like scones.
Oh, me too. I love scones.
Oh, like homemade scones. It was fantastic. So we had a tea party, and there was a cutout of the Queen, and we took pictures, and there were activities for children, and then we had a bunch of our congregants, older guys, sang sea shanties, and that was funny. It was really fun, yeah. So it was really a blast. It was a lot of work, but it was really a fun weekend. And then when it was all over, I think it was Monday night, they showed the Jubilee concert here that had been edited. They showed it on TV on Monday night, so I watched it finally Monday night. So that was interesting. I didn't see so much of what was happening in the UK until then.
Yeah, there was a lot of things. I was trying to tune in as much as I could because I'm just I love the Queen. The Queen is one of my role models, and we have the same name. So my goal is to meet her one day, and just actually sit down and have a good conversation with her and understand because she had it hard, She became the Queen at a young age, and her life really changed. It impacted a lot, and she didn't really have a say on how her life could be. So,
And she said at her coronation, I read, because they gave this book to everybody to read in the church, from the Church of England. And she actually said at her coronation, like, I didn't pick this path, personally. And so I'm asking for your prayers, and because to help me get through this time. And she was very open about her faith. And actually at the church service we had on last Friday night, the ambassador of the UK actually spoke to that. And she said that she had been in diplomatic service, the ambassador, for 35 years. So she said, just imagine having a double career, 70-year career, really.
It's a long time, right?
And so, a lot of us, whether we're British or not, who are involved in the Church of England, like, we really admire her and for her service and as the head of our church. So it was really wonderful to celebrate that.
Well, I have great respect for her because her life was mapped out for her, right? She didn't have a say on what she could do, or like, she's seen some incredible places, but she's really had to just more or less go where she was told to go,
Right. I know.
Yeah.
And always having people follow you and watching you. I don't know if she ever has privacy, and I don't know what it's really like, but if you watch the Netflix The Crown, I'm sure
I do watch that series. That's a beautiful series. They've really done it really well. The first 3 seasons really well. The next couple of seasons, I don't know, they changed the Queen, and
that was different. I like the first Queen.
The first 3 seasons I like. They did really well with finding the actress for the Queen, but the last couple of seasons, I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is...
Yeah. And I don't know if they're going to have a 6th season. Maybe they are. That would be interesting. But
I keep rewatching the first 3 because those are my favorite. I'm just like, I don't like the actress that plays the new Queen. Like,
Olivia, was it Olivia? Yeah, Coleman, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so Linda, I would like to get into, what is your tea?
Okay. Well,
for all the listeners out there, when I ask the guest what is their tea, I'm actually looking to see who they are as an individual. And by them giving me their words of their tea, it actually tells me who they are or what they're doing in the present moment, either their life tea, their moment tea, their day tea. So, Linda, I'd like to have your tea today.
Okay. So for tea, I picked three verbs, and the first one is take.
Oh.
So take a chance, take a leap of faith, take a break, take control of your life, take 5, take stock of your life. So that's why I picked take. It would be easy to pick travel, but for this, I want to make this point across. So,
but that also tells you who you are, because you're a risk taker. So you take chances.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to also add that another reason I like this verb or word is that when I met my husband, his name is Otto, or we say here Otto, and his name translates to the verb to take and finish.
Well, look at that.
And if you come someday to Helsinki, I will show you around, and you will notice that the ATM machines say Otto, O-T-T-O.
Oh, well, look at that, eh?
Yes, so we say we go to the Otto machine.
And I'd love to come and visit. That is my goal, to meet all of my Tea Time guests in person. So that is on my bucket list. So yeah, if I have certain guests that are in one country, maybe we'll have a group tea party or something with Miss Liz. But I'd love to meet all of my guests in person. The virtual land is nice, but I'd like in-person stuff as well.
But, it was confusing because I saw these Otto, before I met my husband, I saw this Otto everywhere. And I thought, do they sell lottery tickets? I was thinking of like Lotto. I didn't know.
Lotto, Otto.
And then when he said his name was Otto, I was like, what? Just like, you're everywhere here. So that's why I picked to take, because I think take in a good sense, not give and take, but just to take something that you. But
it also tells me a lot about who you are too.
And to take care of yourself, to take care. And for E, I picked experience, to experience something. So in keeping with this theme of to take a chance or to take a leap of faith, to experience something that is your heart's desire, for example. So for me, it was like to live abroad for a while and to find like lasting love with somebody. So that was, I was ready to take a chance for that experience, and to see what came of it. Or just to take an experience, like to experience something outside your comfort zone that maybe is a growing experience for you, whatever that. For example, I taught English there to Hungarians, and that's something I never, ever had wanted to do or ever thought I would do, because I hated public speaking. And, it terrified me, actually. The idea of getting up in front of a classroom of students was terrifying. But I just took a chance because it was part of the whole Odyssey. I had to support myself and work. And that was really the way to do it there.
But see, your word experience also explains you in the moment. The experience of sitting and sharing. The word experience is also the present moment, because you're having an experience right now. You're sharing and you're opening up. So this is where the tea comes in. This is where the past, the present, and the future come in. And it's amazing how each tea is different. Not one tea is the same. And that's what I really enjoy about sharing and spilling the tea on Tea Time, is because each of my guests have a different tea. And you're actually telling me who you are as an individual. See, your past, you took a chance on the past to take that risk, to travel, to, and the experience of today, sharing the Jubilee, sharing the tea with me, the experience of the moment, So it tells us a lot who we really are without even understanding that we're teas.
And, I was told many, many months ago that I should get on podcasts and talk about my book. And I really was like, oh, no, that's not my
that's not happening. And here you are today on Tea Time.
Oh boy, I thought no way, but it took me many months to come around, and as you know, Nicole helped me line some up. So that was like months ago, and I think you're my 10th one now. So yay,
I like that number 10. I like the number 10.
Yeah. So yeah, so this is part of that experience too, of the whole being a new author and putting yourself out there and experiencing new things. The whole past year has been an incredible experience, you know, with the book. So, I mean, we could talk about that for hours and I won't, but that's been an amazing experience. And actually living through Corona, the epidemic, has been an experience because actually it wasn't until lockdown really in March, whatever, 2020, that I was serious about really serious about publishing my book. I thought it's now or never, you know, because I couldn't sing, I couldn't play music, no one was going to church, no one was socializing. Yeah. So I thought, okay, now's the time. It had been edited and I had gone to writers' conferences, and so that was the opportunity. So that was also an experience. I mean, publishing something as a first-time writer during the pandemic, I mean, I think a lot of people did that actually.
Yeah.
There are a lot of books out there, you know.
There are a lot, and there's a lot more books coming.
I know.
But so, people are not actually buying the hard copy books. They're buying the e-books, and I find that that's taking away from the whole experience because I love books. Like I'm going to be in 7. It'll be 7 books this year, and I like holding the book, especially when the box comes in and you see the book and you see your words in a book and you can hold it. It's a whole different experience completely.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have a Kindle, but I much prefer to read books, you know. Yeah. The only reason I got the Kindle was I wanted to see what my book looked like on the Kindle, that the format was okay and everything. Yeah. And there's some Instagram writers that I buy their stuff on Kindle because sometimes to ship a book from the States, it takes during the pandemic, it just took forever to get here if it even arrived at all. So I was using a Kindle. But I think experience is a great word, you know.
Yeah.
That's the E. And then the A word is act. So act on it. You know,
I like it.
What have you learned from the experience and from taking a risk? And, you know, are your goals, have you met your goals? Are they still on the horizon? What can you do? Like, how can you change your behavior? How can you act to get at them? And so I think I like that word. I like act or action, you know. Act.
And I think that's a good word for you for the future is act.
Yeah.
Because have you ever thought of putting your book into a film or a movie, a love romance?
I mean, that would be wonderful, but that's, I mean, I don't think about that because I think you have to be more of a traditionally published writer and have like an agent behind you and something.
Oh, you never know.
No, you never know. I mean,
you never know who's listening to Teatime. You just never know. Teatime is really out there, so you never know. There might be somebody that's saying, "Hey, Linda, do you want to make your book into a movie?"
It would be a fantastic idea. I think it would be a really good idea for a movie, and I think and the reason I say that is because it's hopeful, you know, and I think it brings hope to people. And I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from people who've read it, even men. And actually, it's funny because I always thought my target market was more women of a certain age. And recently I was speaking at my friend's English club, and I went there. And at the end of they were interviewing me about my book and how I published it and asking a lot of really great questions. And at the end of the session, I gave away 2 books in a raffle, and 2 men won them. It was 2 men. And I said, wait a minute, you're not in my target audience. And one he said, what? He said, but love is for everybody. He said, love is for everybody. And I thought, that's actually a great point.
Yeah.
So the next day, what I did was I took all the selfies I had gotten from men over the last year, and I posted them on my author page. Because I wanted to show that Odyssey of Love is not just for women. It can be for men, too.
Well, there's a lot of romantic men out there. Some of them are just a little hidden more than others.
Yeah, but I think it's just, I think, you know, it's a happy love story, but also there's this intrigue about the Russian icon, which I think makes it more mysterious. And where is it? And so I'm traveling like to Israel, Greece, Amsterdam, and I'm wondering, like, okay, this guy could be the one, but where's that icon? And like, you know, so just being aware of that too, and what does it look like? And you know, I won't give it away because
I think make an awesome Hallmark love romance movie, you know?
I mean, I think so too. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm totally open to it.
Yeah, for any of the listeners that are out there, if you know anybody that's into making movies, I do have a few people that have some connections to film, so I could kind of give them a little nudge and say, "Hey, check this book out," you
Right.
know, because I think it would be an incredible story, especially at this time, you know, where we're all really isolated, and just a story of the travel and the
Yeah.
love, you know. We really need to bring that back into society as a great love story, you know.
I think
So
so. And after all these years, we're still happily married. So that's something too.
oh,
You
there
know,
you go, right? You got the proof that it worked. The love worked.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. You take a chance, and and things usually, for me anyway, they're better when you take a chance. It takes time, and it can be frustrating in the beginning and difficult, but ultimately, I think it's you're being true to yourself. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
When you're true to yourself, you attract what you need. I think what's best for you, and that's what happened. Yeah.
Well, whatever you put out there comes back to you. I'm a firm believer on that. You know, if you give good, you're going to get good. If you give bad, well, you're going to get bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to share. I'd like to get to know a little bit more on your writing experience. How was that for you? You said this is your first time writing, right? So how was that for you?
I don't know if I shared with you how I started to write. It was because of a tragedy, actually. Um, just after I met my husband and just after we got engaged, my father died suddenly uh,
Oh,
and unexpectedly. He
I'm
was,
deeply sorry.
yeah, it was awful. And I didn't end my book on that note. Because it happened so well. I
Yeah.
won't get into it, but I didn't want to end my book on
Yeah,
that
we
note.
won't give the goodies away. Everyone go out and grab a copy.
But what happened was I was having a very difficult time, and it was suggested to me that I should write as therapy. It's very helpful.
Yep.
So I started to write stories about my dad, and then about my mother, and about family and other people I knew. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to start to write about what happened in Hungary. So I wrote about one particular situation there, and then I thought of others. And I realized that as I was writing, I really enjoyed it because I was going back to this really happy time, when my father was alive and life seemed a little more carefree. And so I could recreate conversations and relationships and travel experiences. It was really, really interesting. So it was really a great exercise. And at the time, I thought of it as an exercise, really.
Oh,
And then what happened is that these chapters started coming, and I could see sections forming, and then sections would come, and then I could say like a whole, okay, so that's like part one, part two. Then I knew the arc, like I knew the beginning was Boston, the end was Helsinki. I knew the people, the main characters. And then I thought, okay, yeah, I see a story here, like a good story. And because I lived it, and I knew it was a good story. So then I decided I would like workshop it at a few conferences. And while I was traveling in New York twice, I went to conferences and I got good feedback. And that kept me going. I met one agent in particular. She didn't handle nonfiction, only fiction. And this is what I repeatedly found is in terms of my writing experience, in terms of traditionally being published, was that all the agents I met at conferences wanted me to fictionalize my book, the whole thing.
oh, wow.
Because, of course, it's easier to sell. Women's fiction is really huge and much bigger than memoir.
Yeah.
So they wanted me to, and they said, think about it. We'd be interested, in meeting with you, talking again. And I would leave thinking, oh, that just didn't feel right to me. I just thought, everybody that knows me knows this happened to me, and how could I write it as fiction? It wouldn't feel right at all, So I ultimately decided that's when I really finally had it. I was in the Stockholm Writers Festival. I think that was about 3 years ago. And I just then decided, okay, I've heard this now from so many different agents. Now I'm going to self-publish. And then the pandemic came and sort of just pushed me in that direction. And so the writing experience was wonderful. I mean, it was lonely. Of course, it's lonely, as we all know. But it was also joyful because I was going back in time and having, these adventures again, because so much of my daily life I was just very sad about my father for a really long time. And I had I was in a marriage and in a new place, and I had left my career. So everything was the opposite of what was before. But I was wonderful. It was wonderful because my husband was really supportive, and he had lost his father at a really, really young age. So he helped get me through that. And I think that was meant to be that he did. So, but that's how I started writing. And then actually, while I was writing Odyssey of Love, I was writing about present things, that were happening. And that's where the sequel comes in, Triptych. So I've already written a lot of that. I have to go back to that. And then I wrote fairy tales. I wrote a Christmas picture book. So I have like a huge cabinet, actually right here, full of stories that I printed out, and I just have to at some point get serious and sit down and decide, put them in order and decide, like, am I going to self-publish these or am I going to try to find a publisher? And I think for children's books, absolutely, it's, pretty necessary. Otherwise, it's really expensive to publish on your own with the illustrations,
So what is the difference between self-publishing and a publisher?
Oh, well, for me, it was that, the good thing about going with the traditional publisher through an agent is they have they've got the contacts. They do so much marketing. They've just got so many connections. It's like throughout the world. They have, they can get the book, foreign rights. They can have it published in different languages. If I had done that and I had a publisher, it might be published in Finnish or Hungarian, but it's not. And that's because that's something I would have to initiate, or pay for probably. But on the other hand, the reason I like self-publishing is I'm in control of the process. And so, for example, I did not fictionalize my book, not the whole thing, no way, Yeah. I didn't want a publisher or an agent to say, no, scrap that whole chapter, forget it. We don't want this character, we don't want to hear about Bea or, or whoever. Or, change the title, change the cover, whatever. I just didn't, you lose so much control actually when you go with a traditional publisher. So that's for me, the big issue is the control issue. And I think because it's my first book and because it's a love story, my love story with my husband. So it was really important for me to self-publish it and do it the way I wanted. In the future, that's different. Triptych, I would be open to traditional, I think, and certainly with children's books.
So when is book 2 coming out?
I don't know yet.
It's still in the working process.
Yeah, I've been so busy, quite truthfully, still with marketing this and with getting on podcasts or trying to get on podcasts and promoting my book and now getting back in music finally and doing some traveling. But I have to really get serious and get on the schedule. And I will not publish in the summertime, though. That was, I think, a mistake. I did it last June. It was on my birthday, actually. And that was fine, but then summer came, and I just wanted to, finally relax and take a vacation. And it wasn't so easy at all, to do that. Yeah. It was, as you know, you have to you can't just disappear. You have to be on social media and see what's happening on Amazon and be attentive and answer your fans who write you or write reviews and thank them. And so, you just have to be aware of what's going on. So this book is much more spiritual. Well, actually the first book, this book, Odyssey of Love, has a spiritual thread running through it because of the icon. And, but the second one, it's much more so because of my father's death. And there's more Angelica, there's more Jenny, there's more, about, it's more, the focus is more in married life and like spiritual pilgrimages I've been on at, when there were really some difficult times in my family or illnesses, that kind of thing. So it's a different focus, but it's also it's a hopeful story as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out. And I won't get a Kindle because I like reading. I like holding the book. Yeah. I do support a lot of my guests that have written books, and I get the Kindle first, and then I'm just like, I need the hard copy. Like,
yeah, I know.
I just need to hold it. I need to, and I love having a library of knowing the authors. instead of having a library full of just books of people that have written books, I love knowing that I know each of the authors who have written a book who's in my tea room. And I can actually say, I know that person. Like, I know Brenda, I know Joe, I know Jen. You know, I can say all of those things and actually get into the story a little bit deeper because I have that personal connection with the author as well.
I've met a lot of other authors on Instagram. I had hesitated really even setting up an author account, and I was really encouraged to do that, and I'm glad I did, because suddenly all these other memoirists were reading my book and they were posting reviews, and even today, actually, oh my goodness, I got someone tagged me on Instagram, and I was wondering, what is this? And she wrote a review about my book many, many months ago, maybe last year. And she's doing a podcast, and she gave a 4.5-minute review of my book. And
well, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. And like, I didn't even know. So of course I thanked her and I listened to it. It was lovely. And then another woman recently did, a young woman. She looked like she was about 25. She had my book and she was all excited, and she had this like big travel image behind her, like with the airports, like departures, you know, and everything. And like she's talking about traveling and everything. So sometimes you don't even know this is happening until you Google yourself.
Oh yeah, Google yourself. You'd be surprised what you find. I did that, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm here. Oh wow, oh okay."
or people are taking a reading from your book. That happened too. My friend's daughter was doing a reading of my book. It was like, whoa. So
yeah.
So this has been a really fascinating journey for me, and I've met like you, people from around the world, and it's so important now because we've been so isolated. And that's one thing I really enjoyed with the podcast, is meeting people from all over. You're in Canada. I've had 2 podcasts with people from Austria. And of course, America. Yeah.
I've had a couple of people from Austria, one from New Zealand and one from Australia.
Yeah, and Australia too. So, so it's been really a great experience. And wow. And that's another thing, you know, you don't realize until you also take a chance and you do something like this too, that it opened up all sorts of other doors and meeting lots of other people that I never thought I would. If I had just, you know, during the pandemic, just stayed at home and played piano and read or whatever. Yeah. So,
well, that's what and this is why I have Tea Time, because for me, number one was my mental health. I didn't want to be isolated during the COVID. And I was already doing similar to this with Sacred Hearts Rising, the series that I'm in. And I was just like, how can I keep my business going? Because my business actually started in 2015, where I was doing fundraising tea parties in the community. And I was like, well, how can I keep the tea going? And my Oma kept telling me, you're the tea, you're Miss Liz, you're Miss Liz. And that's all I kept hearing was Miss Liz and tea. Okay, how am I going to do this tea? You know? And I love connecting and getting to know different people from around the world, their different traditions, their foods, their adventures, you know, their scenery. There's so much. You can actually travel. Like, I've traveled to 130 countries in 3 years, and right on my own chair. So it's almost like I'm in a time machine and I'm going and I'm traveling all over through a cup of tea. So I've actually gotten to know a lot of different places and incredible people like you, Linda. Like, had it not been for what I'm doing with Tea Time, I would have never connected with you. I would have never got to know you.
No, I know. It's a gift, really. It's the only positive thing to come out of the pandemic, I think, is that some of us have really, or a lot of us have just connected with people we never would have before, you know, around the world, that we've been forced to do it. And, you know, if you want to stay sane and continue to socialize.
Well, I think it really has brought people together. You know, for some people, it has been a struggle because they were that person that I'm just going to stay at home. I'm just going to do this. And, you know, where other people were engaged and what can I see? Where can I go? You know, okay, I'm stuck at home. What can I do? Yeah. You know, and a
lot of people started podcasts.
Yeah.
Just like people started writing books, people started podcasting. Yeah,
I started my writing journey in 2017. Well, I've been doing poetry and songwriting and that since I was a little girl. But I mean, my actual writing, I started in 2017. So.
And you have 7 books, you said?
There'll be 7 books by the end of the year.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, I'm working on my own solo project that I'm hoping to have out by Christmas time that I'm not saying too much about, but I've done 7 anthologies. So I've written with many different authors around the globe as well and gotten to meet people that way through writing. So now it's time for Miss Liz to do Miss Liz by herself. So that's a scary journey. That's a risk I'm
Hello.
that is like a travel. It is scary. Like when you write with other people, you know that you can moral support, right? But when you're writing by yourself, who do you talk to? Who do you like? Okay, what do I, you know? Give me some encouragement. Give me some tips or something. I don't have that when you write for yourself, right? And as you know, yourself, right, is like you can speak to people. I'm writing this chapter or I'm doing this, but you really want to keep it hush hush because you want to kind of make it as a surprise and get people to really get engaged and say, wow, this is what she's been doing for 3 months because she's taken time off. And, so yeah, it's scary. It's one of the scariest things I've ever done is taking this step. And I've been wanting to do this for many years. And now it's time. I think after 7 books writing with other people, it's time for Miss Liz to do Miss Liz.
But are you open to having beta readers, like, people read your book? Or
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and there's also, I understand, a lot of online groups. I don't belong to one, but I actually sent my manuscript when it was like still, it wasn't like the polished manuscript, but I sent different versions of the manuscript along the way to some friends of mine and to critique it, and they were very helpful. And then I had some professional editors along the way to give me advice, because I thought, I've never written anything, and so it was really important to get feedback from people. But I know what you mean. You're sort of working in a vacuum, and especially here in Finland, there are not so many, or actually, there's no that I know of. There's no English book writing group at all. No English writers group here. So I'm not part of that. Everyone writes in Finnish or Swedish, which is the second official language. So yeah, it's been difficult. That's why I like to go to writers' conferences when I can. And I'll be going in August to the one back in Stockholm again. I'm glad, after 3 years.
Oh, that's cool.
Great to meet people, and I've gotten a lot of good reviews from people there too. They've read my book. I've read their books. So that's a really good way to network too.
So what final words would you have for the listeners and viewers today? And for all of the ones that are watching the replay, please push #replay and where you're tuning in from, because I'd love to hear where the audience is actually listening to the Tea Times. So, Linda, your final words for the viewers and listeners today.
So if you feel that something is missing in your life, or you feel disappointed in some aspect, whether it's your career or your home life or your partner, or your goals aren't being met, like as was the case with me, just listen to that voice inside, listen to your instinct, and then visualize what it is that you are looking for in the future, and then really decide if you're willing to take the chance to go for it and have the courage to do so, because it's been my experience. I really feel like something better is out there for you. Something's waiting for you, and you just have to really want it and work for it and be brave enough to just go for it. And I think you will attract it. And I think that's my words of wisdom at this point, because I know this has happened to me, not just this time with the Odyssey, but in other ways. Like, even I can remember my 20s and 30s, I had some really hard decisions to make. And, and I just decided to, take a chance, whether it was financial or with a job or career or something. I moved to California at one point and got involved in a charity at one point. I put some money behind it, and I volunteered for many, many, many months without a salary. And then boom, a year later, we had Goldie Hawn as our guest star.
Oh my goodness.
At our fundraiser with 1,200 people, which I helped organize. And I suddenly had a job because we had grants coming in, we had money. So I took a chance, and that's just one other situation. So I think if you really believe that you really feel like you can really almost feel it, taste it, that there is something out there for you, you believe that there's something better or more appropriate, more satisfying really for you. And just you can make it happen. And that's what I did. I took a chance. I thought, okay, I'm not going to get paid. You know, I had some money in the bank. My parents helped me. I asked them for help, whatever. And I just thought, I just feel like if I keep going, the momentum was there, the contexts were there, that something good will happen from this. And it did. And then from that job, because I was very poorly paid, actually. But then the next job I made like about double the salary because I had suddenly all this experience they were looking for. So that got me, that's how I got involved really in philanthropy or, you know, the nonprofit sector like you are. So yeah, I just took a big chance there too. So, as you know, it's not about money.
Yeah. It is not about money. I wish we could have the money, but it's not about the money, right? It's
and so yeah, it's fulfilling. It's really, really fulfilling, and that's what attracted me to the nonprofit world. Like, I worked for this one foundation. It was an AIDS foundation, and my job was I was like the wish fairy, we called it. So I was matching people who were sick with wishes, like their last wishes. For example, a trip to Disneyland with the family, or art supplies, you know, for someone who wanted to paint, or sewing machine for someone who wanted to sew a quilt, for example. So it was really, really fulfilling. I mean, like, no amount of money can make you feel that good, actually, I think.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people don't understand that feeling of complete abundance without the currency. It's the life change that we actually make. You know, there's no price. It's priceless, the feeling that you get when you help somebody.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And actually, with my T word, that was one word I thought of for A, was abundance. I'm
going to take that word too, because that is you. So. Well, I want to really thank you, Linda, for sitting and having tea with me today and sharing your story. So if anybody out there who is listening or has watched the Tea Time, please, the Tea Times are available to be shared. If you'd like to reach out to Linda, you can get her on her website, or you could check her out on Facebook, and she's also on Instagram. All of the details will be in the description box for the audio podcast listeners out there. And I want to thank you again, Linda, for sharing your tea. You know, take experience, act. And I like that because it actually is your tea, and it really is a good, strong cup of tea. And that's all we do here is we serve strong tea. We serve to make a difference. So I really want to thank you. And I want to thank all the viewers and listeners who have tuned in today and sat and enjoyed a cup of tea with us, or a cup of coffee, or your favorite beverage. You do not have to drink tea to enjoy a Tea Time with Miss Liz. And I will see everyone back here on June 16th at 3 p.m. where I have another author coming in, and she'll be sharing her story. And she'll be coming in from Canada. And her name is Jennifer Lieberman. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm sure she'll correct me when we sit down and have tea. But she'll be sitting down. She's an actress, and she has a story to share with us about filmmaking and all that good stuff. So, like I said, Linda, you just never know who's tuning in and who's watching. So,
yes. Oh, wonderful.
I do connect the dots. So we will stay connected after tea time as well. Okay. So again, thank you to all the viewers and listeners out there for joining me today and having tea. So.
Okay, bye. Thank you. Bye.
So don't leave. We will talk in the back of the studio. But again, thank you to everyone who has tuned in today for Tea Time.